Thomas Aquinas, Tommaso di Aquino, Dominican friar, philosopher, Catholic priest, doctor of the church, theologian and jurist. Dr. Angelicus, Aquinas, Aquino, natural theology, Thomism, Western thought, natural law, metaphysics, political theory, wanted to synthesize Aristotelian philosophy with Christianity, Summa Theologica on prayer and contemplative life, speculative theology, scholasticism. It is absolutely true that there is first something which is essentially being and essentially good, which we call God, and that everything can be called good and a being inasmuch as it participates in it by way of certain assimilation. Postquam sanctissimus. Ontology. 1. Potency and Act. 2. Act is perfection. 3. One God, absolute being. All others participate in essence and being. 4. Things are called beings as an analogy of attribution and proportionality. 5. In every creature there is a composition of many forms. 6. Besides absolute accidents, there are relative accidents. 7. The spiritual creature essence with being and substance with accidents. 8. Corporeal creature names the forms of matter. Cosmology. 9. Matter nor form corrupted category, reductively substantial principles. 10. Extension quantitative substance order of dimensions indivisible. 11. Principle of individuation numerical distinction of one individual from another. 12. Virtue of body circumscriptively. 13. Bodies are divided into living and unliving. The soul requires organic disposition heterogeneously. Psychology. 14. Souls in the vegetative and sensitive orders, principles whereby the living thing exists. 15. The human soul is created by God, by its very nature incorruptible and immortal. 16. The rational soul is united to the body by virtue of his soul. Man is man. 17. From the human soul powers organic and non-organic, the senses. 18. Intellectually, necessarily follows upon immateriality present state of union of soul and body. 19. We receive knowledge from sensible things, a power acknowledged in the soul, sense images in the imagination. 20. Through intelligible likenesses we know universals, i.e., the nature of things. 21. The will does not precede the intellect but follows it. God. 22. God exists a priori, a posteriori, unmoved mover, uncaused cause, absolutely necessary being, maximally understanding. 23. The metaphysical motion of divine essence, reason for infinite, unlimited perfection. 24. The purity of God is distinguished from all finite beings. First cause. Metaphysics. Fundamental axioms of ontology. Principle of non-contradiction. Principle of causality. Any being that does not contradict these two laws could theoretically exist. Univocality, analogy, equivocation. Being. Existence is twofold. One is essential existence, or the substantial existence of a thing. For example, man exists, and the existence simpliciter. The other is accidental existence. For example, man is white, and this is existence secundum quid, de principalis nature. Causality. A. Material cause. B. Formal cause. C. Efficient cause. D. Final cause. Goodness. Dionysus says, evil is neither a good nor a good. I answer that one opposite is known through the other, as darkness is known through light. Hence also that evil must be known from the nature of good. Now we must have said above that good is everything appetible, and thus, since every nature desires its own being and its own perfection, it must be said also that the being and the perfection of any nature is good. Hence it cannot be that evil signifies being or any form of nature. Therefore it must be that name of evil is signified the absence of good, and this is what is meant by saying that evil is neither a being nor a good. For since being as such is good, the absence of one implies the absence of the other. Aquinas says that there is no problem from the fact that some men desire evil, for they desire evil only under the aspect of good, that is, insofar as they think it is good. Hence the intention primarily aims at the good and only incidentally touches on the evil. As God is the ultimate end of all things, God is by essence goodness itself. Furthermore, since love is to wish the good of another, true love in Thomism is to lead another to God. Hence why John the Evangelist says, "Whoever is without love does not know God, for God is love." Existence of God. Quinque via. 1. Argumentum ex motu, or the argument of the unmoved mover. 2. Argumentum ex ratione causae efficientis, or the argument of the first cause. 3. Argumentum ex contingentia, or the argument from contingency. 4. Argumentum ex gradu, or the argument from degree. And 5. Argumentum ex fini, or the teleological argument. The existence of God and other like truths about God which can be known by natural reason are not articles of faith, but are preambles to the articles, for faith presupposes natural knowledge, even as grace presupposes nature, and perfection supposes something that can be perfected. Nevertheless, there is nothing to prevent a man who cannot grasp a proof, accepting as a matter of faith something which in itself is capable of being scientifically known and demonstrated. Summa. Anthropology, soul, ethics, law, free will, epistemology. Whatever is in our intellect must have previously been in the senses. Thomas Aquinas. Faith and reason. The harmony of reason and revelation. Some truths can be learned through human reason, while others God discloses through revelation. Only the false is opposed to be true. 3 awkward consequences. Consequences. 1. Few men possess knowledge of God, the diligent inquiry, discovery of truth. 2. Above-mentioned truth after a great deal of time. 3. Human reason has falsity, the weakness of our intellect in judgment. Mercy, zeal towards the old law, presumption, faith in truth, following artificial fables. The examination of definitions, impossible truth of faith, opposed principles that human reason knows naturally. Divine attributes. God is omnipotent, and affirming that God is omnipotent. God can do the impossible? Absolutely. Omnipotence implies that God can do no evil. Third article, objections 1 through 4. God is omnipotent because he can do all things possible. Higher cause in contingence to necessity, condition of the proximate. Religious language, the doctrine of analogy. Theory of analogy is important philosophy. Misunderstood critics, analogical strategy, arguing God exists scholastic doctrine. Circumstances to circumstances, predicates the univocal meaning. Replete, technical rules. Apostle Paul, the invisible things of God are made known by the things that are made. Predicate, univocally, equivocation, wise. Analogously, acknowledge. Number 2 to the number 1, 6 resembles 4, and 6 is double 3. Esse, instance, being a good, and so forth. Arguments about God's existence. The classical cosmological argument. Retrograde motion can't proceed to infinity. Unmoved mover. Look at the night sky. Stars, cosmos exists. Therefore, God exists. Religion and morality. Ethics and natural law. Theists claim that justifiable ethical truth originates in God. How such truth is communicated from God to humans? God's basic moral perspective. Law of nature is practical reason. Ignorant of what man is proposition is not self-known. It is not proper at once to affirm than to deny. Every whole is greater than its part, and things equal to one and the same are equal to each other. Good is to be done and sought after, evil is to be avoided. Our natural moral inclinations, careful consideration, prerogative. Honor thy mother and father. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal.